Tom, do you know Lenhart? You know those
This is
Lenhart
new,
people?
this is first time actually.
No, I know.
Yeah, I never really know that.
Same family.
Yeah, she has. I don't-
Hey Pam, can you hear us well?
Stacy.
So. after the meeting,
Yes. Thank you.
Shoot, fine.
Gentlemen, I'm going to call town board workshop number 20 to order. Have the clerk note that all town board members are present. We are also have town engineer Bob Westall, assistant civil engineer Lynn Dingy, Tom Burke from Parks, Tom Sistrey from Parks, and Highway Superintendent Dick Crawford present. Jen Mentor from Golden Age as well. All right. First item on our agenda is a split, and it says that dog bite, that's not going to be something we're going to address. We're going to do that at a regular town board meeting on June 6th. July 6th, I'm sorry, thank you. Trying to catch up to you. We have a split rezone for 1815 Love Road. This is Chris Shore's property. We need to do a seeker determination on that. The applicant has completed the part 1 of the environmental assessment form. There are no significant environmental impacts anticipated. Part 2 is completed by the lead agency. All items for no or small impact may occur. I'll entertain a motion to grant a negative declaration for this project. Motion by Mike Madigan, second by Pete Marson. Any further discussion on that? Roll call. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? That motion carries. Capital projects.
So do you want to go ahead and do the, adopt the local law for the rezoning here?
Oh, it's true.
With the
That would be the second.
Second
This
part,
would
I'm
be,
sorry.
the planning board's recommendation.
Yes.
It's two, actually, John, it's two motions. It's the, it's a split and a rezone. So accepting the subdivision regulations for the creation of a lot.
Can we do it all as one?
And to rezone that parcel.
Okay, can we do that all as one thing? We're going to do 2 separate motions.
The local law is the rezoning. And if you want to do this.
Yeah, so just do them two separate.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay,
So the first one. would be-
First one would be the split to create a parcel, and the second one's the local law to rezone that parcel.
I think the first one.
I don't have this split here, Bob, but you-
It's with that, I mean, there's a picture, there's the drawn picture. of the
I know it's a split,
Yeah.
but it's not a work written thing I read. I don't read pictures, so.
Right, well, it's creation of a.
What kind of engineer are you?
Creation of a parcel without dimensions.
So he's going to merge 2 M1 properties together and create a 151 by 390 foot parcel with frontage on Love Road and rezone it to B1. So the first motion is to grant exception of the subdivision regulations to create a 151 by 390 foot parcel.
So.
Did you do that? Motion by Pete Marston, second by Tom Agati.
Discussion real quick. This is creating new lots. We need to look at recreation fees.
Recreation fees were applicable to residential and commercial that involve residential. This right now does not. Okay. Contemplate in that zone. Okay.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries. Second motion is to adopt the local law to rezone the parcel to B1.
So
Motion by Tom Agati,
second.
second by Mike Madigan. Any discussion on that? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? That motion also carries.
No, we don't have to say all of it, correct?
Yeah, okay.
You got stuff you're on, so.
All right, capital projects. Who wants to take that? Then why don't you?
Okay, what I emailed out is the beginnings of this year's capital plan. I put in all the numbers for, what we're paying out, which would be the existing highway or existing expenses. the proposed projects aren't all accurate in numbers yet because the project prices have changed on the project numbers. And I've also found, since I've emailed this to you, that some of the numbers for the water and wastewater are shifted down one count in a row and need to be shifted up. So I didn't spot that. But we need to talk about projects that need to go on here, timing when they need to go on here. I got some equipment stuff. We sat down on Tuesday and went over some equipment that could be shared between water, wastewater, and highway and parks. I kind of put those in here. I didn't put numbers to them yet.
Is the email version the wrong one, or they both get printed with the shifted wrong too?
Yes.
Okay, just
Yeah.
you'll tell us.
And
Yeah.
John, just for guidance, does the CARES Act, might that move some of these projects earlier?
The CARES Act funds are only allowed to be used for, my understanding, 3 categories, and correct me if I'm wrong: water, wastewater, or broadband. And I think we can also use it for debt from COVID-related expenses. Pam, is there anything else that you're aware of?
I think there's some other things in general fund that might qualify, but I really think that water and sewer have enough that you could eat up all that anyway.
That's kind of what I was, so that's fine, we're agreeing. I mean, we're allegedly getting $2.35 million. That's going to be over the course of 2 years. I don't know how they're breaking that down, but if they do a 50-50 split, we're at 1.17 and 1.18 or 1.175.
Right.
So
Can it be existing projects that we've already started, or do we not know any of the details?
haven't received that information yet. So there, yeah, Mike, there's your answer.
Got it. So water and wastewater, which might give us some relief to do some of the other things we need to do.
Sure.
Yeah, we have some significant blips that happened. on
Plus, prices are
water.
increasing drastically, so a lot of this is gonna be taken up in that aspect as well.
So we can start with highway, since we're on top. We're doing 750 for paving this year. That was our plan. The Vector is on here for next year for 250. I have to put new numbers in for that. I've included next year's paving. In 2023, they want to do a grade all purchase. And I've included the 2023 paving on here. I think that was all
Correct.
that you had. There was no other surprises.
No, I decided to stop there.
Okay,
What is your paving plan for 2022?
The same that it is every year. I mean, I don't have the specific roads, but the micro paving, the mill and fill, and
cold and place recycle.
We basically, John, look at conditions and then where, and it's to fit. Basically, we tailor a linear foot of project to match a budget, plain and simple.
Right, I know it's the same as other years. I just wanted to know, as he and I have talked about ransom,
yeah, it does not.
where that, this does,
No.
based on the figure, this doesn't include
That's
that.
ransom was completely out of this type of scope. Ransom is going to
Right.
be a complete and total rebuild of the road well beyond.
So,
It's going to be a regular bonded capital project.
Right, plus we're gonna be looking for federal
We're looking
assistance,
for a DOT.
as you know.
As I know, yeah.
Yeah,
With
so
that number,
that
I
isn't
went
even
to include
reflected in
it, but
any
I
of this stuff, yeah.
wanted to make sure
I mean, we can-
everyone's
We
radar.
can add it in there, and we're gonna have to.
This is Pam. Have you got any plan? Are we even close to a bond resolution yet? Because we're at the end of June. We need bond resolutions in July,
Yeah,
if I'm gonna borrow this year.
it'll be, I was supposed to have the numbers for the roads, but I don't have them, so I'm sure that they're gonna show up at the end of the day today. But
And, okay, and some of the repayment here, the prospective repayment isn't correct, but I can work with Lynn after the fact and correct these. Yeah, as far as when you see like a 5-year maturity on 750,000, year 1 is interest and the remaining 4 are principal. So those are each 187,000 in principal for the remaining 4 years. Conversely, with the Vector, that's like a $62,000 principal repayment plus some interest. So it's possible that those numbers just got switched or,
Yeah, I haven't done any of the proposed numbers. I have to go back and fix those. The whole sheet got shifted around and all that.
yeah,
I've added other projects in, so those numbers.
and that's fine. But just bear in mind that we need bond resolutions at board meetings in July if we're going to borrow this year.
We have a Vector truck now or no?
Yeah, yeah.
So is this a replacement or?
This is a replacement.
Okay.
That Vector truck is what year, Dick? 89, 90, something like
Okay,
that.
yeah.
Yeah, it's gotten its life out of it. I don't know if it's quite
No,
that.
you got a new one when I came here, so it's
Yeah,
it's within 16.
yeah.
15
But
years old.
it's getting to the point where we've had some mechanical issues that it's time to, look at.
Trade.
Does it have any resale value?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
So that number may
Absolutely.
creep down a little bit because of that or?
Oh, it definitely will creep down.
Okay.
Wherever the resale we get goes back to the funds that pay for it.
And the grade all same scenario? It's
Yeah,
older?
Great All's 20 years old.
Okay,
And
so we just sell it and buy a new one.
yeah, I mean, we put $10,000 into it last year.
Yeah.
And it's time that it's,
But it's not staying. We're not having two. We're-
no.
Okay, we're replacing. Got it. Okay.
Okay.
Okay. General fund. When you get down to proposed projects, the town hall roof is actually already authorized.
Was that bonded already?
Yes. The Veterans Park access improvements are the CFA grant application we're putting in. So that needs to go on here. Town hall electrical upgrades for a future project. I don't know where that's a kind of floating out there in the air right now with the HVAC issues we're having, that project. So that's kind of a question mark. And Dick has asked for a salt shed, so that goes under general fund, but that's not till 2024. So this would be a good spot for anybody, has any parks or golden age or recreation projects. Shout them out.
Who wants to go first?
You can, but this man.
Well, as you can see from my list, the needs are great and we really need to start not only investing in the now, but we need to start investing in the future because I feel like we've been long neglected. So with that being said, what I've been saying in our Parks and Rec Advisory Board for the last few years is a new community center and Golden Age Center, so you can see the attached needs list. So as you already know, even during COVID, we've outgrown our space. We're using 3 buildings right now for our programs, even presently as I speak. We're constantly flipping spaces, dividing spaces, disinfecting in between. So with that being said, presently, even as I speak, we're using those 3 buildings. Right before I came here, I had already set out my materials, had another staff member present to sign people in, set up that equipment. The floor is crumbling. I have weeds growing out of the floor inside the Golden Age Center. The floor is crumbling. It is uneven, which is a tripping hazard, especially for people of all ages. Right now, the age range is actually 50 years, which is incredible. So with that being said, we have to start looking into grant money, saving monies aside, et cetera, to invest in the now and our future, because we're not even ready for the now. We're really trying our best with all that we have. So the price, of course, is unknown because we have to put out an RFP and RFQ to see what that true price is, which could be anywhere from 5 to 15 mil. If we start small, then add on as the years go on. The biggest need, secondly, is the parking lot at the Nike base, which has been long neglected. We've been doing patchwork. Bob knows highway and engineering will have to come in and to do a thorough evaluation of this. Of course, this is not my wheelhouse. You guys already know this, but I've literally laid on my stomach in the foyer to see that the parking lot is higher than the foyer. And that's why we had that water flowing into the foyer on a heavy rain day. Luckily, Bob stepped in with engineering to help me get accurate drainage so that I no longer have the water flowing into the foyer at this point in time. But strangely and whatnot, on a heavy rain day, we'll still get, if we have a west wind and a strong rain, we'll still at times get rainwater coming in through the dining room doors, of which then I have to mop up pools of water into the dining area, which could cause slips and falls, etc. It's just the nature of the wind and the wind coming off the river. So there's no appropriate drainage at the Nike-based parking lots. There's spider webbing, there's potholes. In 2019, there was severe car damage with screws and things of that nature going through seniors' tires, of which there was no attention to those tires when I brought it to the board. And most recently, my coworker's bike was completely destroyed when he rode his bike to work, which was his only mode of transportation. He had to buy a whole new bike because of the nature of the damages in that parking lot. So with that being said, we'll have to do, I'm assuming, grading in a whole new parking lot, drainage, you name it. I just don't know what the exact price tag would be. But if we're not going to get a whole new Golden Age Center or community center, which our community deserves and really need for the now and for the future, for both children, adults, and our seniors, then we really have to start investing the money into Nike-based park, especially when it's so close to the West River Bike Trail, and our community's really a gem. So we really have to start investing in Nike-based park for sure, on top of the work that we've already put into it to make it as great as it already is. Another thing that I did put on the radar, once again, I think this is the 4th year that I put it on the radar, like the other two, is the septic backup issues. So presently, I have the company come out, Brundage, to do the jetting of the lines 3 times a year with hopes that I do not have a septic backup. The septic backup tends to happen, sadly, every 12 to 16 months, just because of the nature of the old system. Most
Also
recent,
what's going in it.
exactly, and you know the age range of the people I'm working with, and it's a constant issue. And sad to say, with the nature of COVID, it's even more, which I won't get into. Everyone has declined drastically, mentally, socially, physically. I can't even get into it. It's quite sad.
Yeah, and Jen, you and I worked on the idea of even just the, if we've got to flush it,
Absolutely.
the cost of a cleanup versus the cost
Yeah.
of a periodic jetting and cleaning
Right.
there's a big misbalance there that we might as well do more frequent
Absolutely.
flushings of it and dealing with it that way. And,
Right.
right now, we're hoping that's a successful method to keep this going.
Right.
It was far better than a cleanup is to just get them out more than because at first you were saying once or twice a year. Okay, then we gotta
Right.
go 4 times a year.
Right.
We're staying ahead of one cleanup.
You got it. So I've actually, for the last 2 years, 3 years, I've been doing the jetting twice a year. This year I've increased it to 3 times a year with hopes that I do not have that big massive septic backup that I've had way too many times. So with that being said, I had most recently the septic tank was empty because it was so full, of which in my time here, I've never had it empty. So that was something that was brought to my attention. So the price unknown on that, just because I know that there are severe issues with that line.
On your radar and scheduling, Jen, probably a 3 to 5 year, 5 maximum.
Yeah, I didn't know we weren't emptying. That'll be a big change.
There would be a big change, and I did empty it this year, so I will write that in my notes. And then,
Probably 3, but especially with what your system is fed, probably 3.
okay,
Or, we can evaluate if it needs to be shorter, but
okay, I just know that
Yeah.
line is really awful.
residential is much different, but yeah.
And then last but not least is just a central air cooling system throughout the facility. So presently, 1/3 of the facility has the cooling system, which is the stage in the dining area. And I have window units through the rest of the facility. So we do have the backup generator at the Golden Age Center, which serves as presently as an emergency shelter during any kind of situation. So Dick will call me and say, hey, we need to open up Golden Age for this, and that. So the last time we did that was October 31st, the night of that, 2019, when the canal streets had been flooding. There was a windstorm that came through. I went into Golden Age and opened it up at 2:30 in the morning that night. So on the flip side, if you did want to designate GoldenAge on the flip side as a cooling station too, or just give that comfort to the seniors to have cooling, you might want to consider bringing air conditioning through the rest of the facility, which would be the remaining 2/3, because we do have window units through the rest of the building.
So are any of these items currently on the active list? I'm guessing
No.
no. And which ones need to be? I guess is the question of the day, huh?
I would say the parking lot is very important. Because no matter what happens, it's still gonna be there.
And I can tell you the front entrance part of the parking lot is crumbling. When you take probably 20 paces out from the front entrance, which is the west entrance, it is crumbling right there. And there are potholes, and you can literally see the middle of the parking lot leading from the entrance at Whitehaven and right where the Nike Base Park sign is. The middle is literally crumbling, and you see the spider webbing all the way through. And there's potholes right through it. And I'll talk to Dick every year. And when the guys from Highway have downtime, they'll patch it up. And then they'll always stripe it up with the parking lot stripes. But it's just going to take one more accident or incident or sprained
I guess
ankle or something's going to happen with people.
That's the question, Bob, or
That parking lot is a total and complete redesign and rebuild over the years. That facility actually used to have so it's high in the center
Yeah,
and crowns out to the front, to basically to along the faces of the buildings. That entire facility originally had curb
right.
that we have paved over and up over the top of in order to create access, a barrier-free access for the
Right.
users. So what happens? The water flows right up to the front. And literally that whole thing, in theory, needs to be reversed.
Yeah.
And put a low spot in down the center of the parking
With the
lot
drain.
Right.
and make the drainage work. It is going to be an extensive, there is no simple fix. It is going to be a massive redo of that area.
and that's a huge parking lot.
That's,
It is.
I mean, we
Listen,
wouldn't go
this
all
is
the way
a-
over to the diamond or the tennis court area. We would just do probably that front area.
I mean, if there's a
the
bad
way in.
defect on the loop around it, we gotta fix it. You know, you can't just, hey, we're only gonna fix half. I mean,
Have
it's
we
gotta
ever
be
got a quote on
No.
that? Probably not.
Biggest piece is the alley between the buildings.
the center core.
Yeah.
But it is extended, I mean, it's literally, the solution is to reverse it. It was never designed, the drainage system is designed with it being the high spot. Everything is a total redo.
I would think that with being able to compensate with the CARES Act for some of the water and sewer, no, I'm just saying,
Okay.
Oh, general
maybe
fund.
we can,
Free up some money.
Free up some money, yeah.
I'm gonna guess it's gotta be 150, 200.
And again, the thing is.
It's gonna be-
Oh,
Half,
no,
half, seven,
I'd say
half,
three-quarters.
quarters.
$750,000, sure.
Throw the one in for the play, 1 million for the
That works
placeholder,
right
you
out
know, it's
there,
the.
Yeah, we're redoing everything. It's not set.
And there's enough traffic there daily, I can assure you that.
Oh,
I
yeah.
would say the whole thing with the amount of traffic we get.
We'd have to look at it, take a
Yeah.
comprehensive
In
look
the
at it.
tennis court.
Tennis
definitely
court
needs
and
to be
diamond parking lot is
So we gotta
destroyed.
spend
destroyed,
smartly,
yeah.
and it sounds like this one's one of the ones that's gotta be on the list, probably.
Especially too with the amount of traffic we're getting
Well, it's a
with total people.
evaluation, then what do we do?
I need a piece
Are
of
we staying there?
Well, that's, once again, as
And
Jen
that's
said,
the big question.
her others is you need a new facility because this one is obsolete.
But
Or
like Pete said,
stairway.
even if we got the new facility, that one's still gonna be there, it's still gonna get some use.
We need
It's
to-
still going to be a problem.
Repurpose.
So,
Yeah,
It doesn't go, the problem doesn't go away.
No.
correct,
Right.
correct.
So I think we have to fix the parking lot at some point. So that, I don't know if that's really.
and the septic thing, I think
Well,
we hope.
We're in a good state. I mean,
Right,
with the protocols that Jen and I have been talking about,
give it
you know,
some time and
it's,
see.
we're in a good spot there. The cost of the maintenance type things versus, reconstruction effort into it, it's functioning. You know,
Central air cooling, that's something that I probably wouldn't want to endeavor upon until we had a better idea as to whether or not
the only thing I want to
somebody else
say
was
is,
in the picture.
in that realm though, something we should do this year, and Jen and I have talked about it, it just hadn't become a priority before. We need to make sure to have an action or a motion to make the Nike base an official cooling center on the Erie County site. Where I've always thought we've done it, she's asked for it, it's never been made a priority by more than a couple board members, so she couldn't have the action. We want to designate it for community, like we've researched everything, Patty and I we looked everywhere, we haven't approved that. We want to do it so our residents know where to come, but if we designate it for that, we can also possibly get funding to enhance it. So I don't know if that's gonna come from Jen in July.
I
On
would
a-
suggest some discussions with Greg Butcher too, because there's certain
Yes.
criteria that must be met by the facility to actually be able to
Yes.
be
I was thinking,
used
Greg
in
and I-
that way.
Greg and I have talked about it. Yeah, but we should pursue that just for community benefit, even though we have the welcome center.
So action item wise, I'll just back on the parking lot. It sounds like we should try and get a quote.
Well, I mean, Mike, we'll start looking at and deciding what the actual scope is.
We gotta look.
And then try to develop a budgetary idea for it.
And then the second item sounds like the floor. Because we're gonna be using the Golden Maid Center for a long time, I suspect. And should we not just bite the bullet and get the floor fixed?
Well, it's
I
on
mean, if there's-
capacity, we're gonna use that building.
Right,
You know what I mean? The building, we're not gonna get rid of the building, even
Right.
if they're not in it. We're still gonna
so I mean, the floor doesn't sound like a major, it sounds like we need
Until you
to,
get to the asbestos.
Until you
part.
get, as soon as
That's
you
the
touch the asbestos, we're in.
It
That's
has
where you-
seven-
that's where you got the air conditioning and the floor.
That's, and with
Deal
the
the
floor and the
asbestos.
adhesives are, that's,
even in that, because we're talking the newer building that has the asbestos there still.
The
So it
floor that
actually
they're
has-
crumbling is,
7 different pieces of
Part of the
flooring.
original.
and that is undoubtedly has asbestos mastics, if not the tiles themselves, so.
So
we know they are. I mean, from the testing we've done, we know they are.
So
Okay.
to circle back, all that safety shelter stuff was on a surfboard when the kind of the wheels fell off them. And we went into COVID, they were trying to push that forward. So that it was that building and the welcome center, because the welcome center has.
Welcome center already is.
Is what-
big, 'cause
Yeah,
it's a state
yeah.
Yeah, but
mandated, but-
it'd be nice to get it like.
No, we can, let's get going on that. Let's bring that back to the forefront, get it
I'm
done.
emailing
It's gonna help
Greg
us get
and
some
Jen right
funding.
now.
That's, really where we need to be.
Because there is monies available for improvements with that.
Yeah, I just looked in the cycle. Dick probably saw me looking it up. When you get to be a heating and cooling center designation, doesn't mean we won't do some percentage of match, but
Right, but at least it
Yeah.
helps take some of it.
Takes us.
we'll get that set in July. And Greg's on the
Who
emails.
knows, maybe they'd even help with the parking lot if it was designated as such. you know?
That is very optimistic. I love it, Mike.
Well,
So the other facility that last year, the county opened up libraries, but it's our building. So if you have to designate a building, you may want to consider a library also.
That's a good point.
The county automatically designated all of them, whether or not we own them.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
But again, if you are officially designating, you might as well put our library on there too, because it's our building, not the county's.
That's true. They put it on their website.
Just there's that DASNY grant down there for outdoor improvements we can't stretch over and include any of this parking stuff into that. Could we?
I don't think so, 'cause it's gotta be recreation.
It's gotta be recreational.
You might get a cost, well, the things, we don't have a project now, as he's saying, tennis court area, that stuff is just, that part of the lot is absolutely hammered also, but we don't have a project in front of us right now to chase it and go, we can't get the money for that piece when we're not, if we're not ready turnkey to do the whole thing.
So just back on actions wise, it sounds like we should scope out and try and get a cost for the parking lot.
Yes.
And then it sounds like we should also probably do the same thing for the floors.
Well,
That's
the start, yeah. Those in there.
Sticker shock.
why that's gonna be really
Think of
expensive.
any time we've
That's
used
good.
Once
a
you
word,
start
what
touching
exactly have we gotten into?
Yeah.
Yeah, the cost with the asbestos, just think right across the street from there.
What we
when we did.
The
Well, is it a
abatements and-
small section or does the whole floor need to be fixed? That's the question. I'm not sure. of.
Once you start taking up the floor and disturbing the asbestos though, you.
Well, it becomes it's,
But we can have a consultant take a look at
yeah,
that.
that's,
Okay, that's the answer for now.
Right. Okay.
Okay, Tom?
Okay, what Tommy has here is the micro paving of Veterans Park roadways.
Okay.
The repair of the linear bike path, about 142,000 square feet. The sealing of the bike path from Bedell to Buckhorn and all the paths of Veterans Park. Little League fence, I think is already on there. It just hasn't been done yet. Lynn, is that correct?
Yeah.
The one, the
Yeah.
fence we put down?
Was
That's
that
in their
the one they talked about, a movable one?
Yeah,
Okay.
yes. What I would like to see done is, to me, Veterans Park is very limited. It's really for athletics. It's not really a park. I think tennis and pickleball courts need to go to Veterans Park. The ones at the Nike base are
Shot.
deteriorated, probably beyond point. I mean, you probably have to rip them down and start all over again. So
for conversation's sake, you could probably build it was cheaper, you could fix those.
Probably.
That's
Yeah.
And we don't need
possible
8 to
dog
10 of
park
them.
in the future, you know?
Exactly.
like what's at Veterans Park, or like what's at Nike Base.
Is it?
You put in 2 tennis courts, 2 pickleball courts, something like that. Back to Jen's parking lot, that roadway that wraps around, as Pete knows, is gonna be the entranceway to the trail system, and we were talking about putting a little small parking area back there, which would be next to the MASH building. So that roadway is gonna continue to be used, leading to a small parking lot, hopefully. And the last thing would be, which I'm assuming is probably at a standstill right now, Lynn, right, until we hear from the grant, is a drainage at Veterans Park.
Right.
Right.
That's what we're
That's
applying
the
for the grant for.
Even if that doesn't happen, we need to start doing, even if it's sections at a
Little
time.
piecemeal pieces.
If, like Chris said, we'll put the grid in first and then maybe do 2 diamonds a year or something. I had Rich's athletic fields out Monday. They're supposed to have me numbers by Friday.
Okay.
He said ballpark based on the size of those little league diamonds would be about 35,000 a field,
That's not bad.
which I was very surprised.
To what?
Great.
So that's,
For drainage,
that's,
for an
you're
entire field.
you're crowning, grading,
No
crowning.
Said they don't need crowning. They're,
Okay. He's got
He
but
gave me a
we
book.
have to get it somewhere.
he's got,
so.
every 15 feet, they have drains put,
Mhm.
going to a grid system like Chris had talked about.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Okay.
So,
Remember our conversation about burying a conduit for electrical?
yes,
Those if you're gonna have them apart.
they do that.
Okay. So in other words, support
Yes.
comes under the pitcher's mound. It comes out by the fence at least behind the backstop for
For the pitching
for the
machine.
pitch machine.
You
Yeah.
said it's crazy, we're dragging cords. Yeah. we can
Yeah.
Do it, yeah.
Yeah. Generators. It's apart for
For a
the.
generator out there, yeah.
He also said they do, like if you wanted a feature field where the infield was all artificial turf, that was about approximately 190,000.
Tom, I have a
Probably
question,
not.
and this would be a question for someone who knows a lot about this, like you, maybe Joe. How do we reconcile the popularity of pickleball and the consistent win that we have in Veterans Park? Because it's very easy to play, tennis, play in the playground there. Pickleball is awesome, best played indoors. Are there solutions or options where we can place it appropriately where it wouldn't impact the game as much and actually get people turning out because the breeze affects it?
It's the same thing as a volleyball court.
Right, I'm like,
You can have pine trees transplanted along the wind wall, which I believe we've brought up before. I think Tommy has anyway. But you can have a windscreen put up.
just want to
I
see
don't think they
utilized
work
if we put
great
them in.
because I think it'll get torn to shreds eventually and wind still goes through them.
I think any trees in Veterans Park are a good move.
The pine, you could have a pine tree. We wanted to put one up for the volleyball courts, but we could do the same thing for the tennis courts.
Ironically, as you had said, moving more stuff to veterans. Lynn and I, in a chance meeting with part of our security consultants, and that, believe it or not, the one guy that leads that company
Mhm,
was I guess I'd call it semi-professional tennis player,
mhm.
instructor in a high-end league that he used to play over here.
No way.
And when they were doing the assessment, he was in tears of what this looks like, because he said that was one of the best places in Western New York to play, was over there at Nike
Nike
Base.
Base.
Yes.
Was.
And that fits to the bill of, is that the appropriate place? It really is, by environment, by location.
Mhm.
The wind didn't affect it.
Is it a place to continue
That's why.
with some of the infrastructure in place, and
I
the
will-
lighting towers, even if they need to be updated, whatever, just to keep getting that kind of feedback from somebody that said that was the place in Western New York to play tennis.
And I don't think you'd want to lose the whole thing,
Mhm.
but I don't think we need 8 courts there either. Because there's more courts now. The high school's got 8 or 10 now, and
I do have
Haven Woods
seniors
are
that
new,
have sport.
Kegavines are new.
Yeah.
But
I just want to make sure wherever we place it, especially with something like pickleball, where it's sensitive to wind, it gets used.
Yeah.
So, and
Oh, yeah.
I'm not the person that's an expert on that.
Yeah, like I said, I got that as just a weird side story, and
That's
just
cool.
figured I'd present that here as we're talking about, moving assets and eliminating areas. There was some feedback that was just the place in Western New York.
I think it would be nice to preserve maybe 2 courts and a pickleball court there, but that whole, it doesn't get used. Even
Does it
even
not
towards
get
the
used
tail end.
because of its condition now, or does it, because those courts are on an upswing again?
I say
Yeah.
you start investing money into Nike Base again. Especially if you're not gonna invest money in a new facility for us, you need to start seriously investing money into Golden Age and recreation.
Well, at the very least, I think it's always planned to be a
It's long
passive
overdue.
recreation, correct?
Yes.
So it's not really going anywhere.
No, it's,
Especially with the trails being updated and especially with the West River Trail right there. We have bike groups that come in all the time, twice a week, and use our facilities and use our picnic benches. We're constantly welcoming new groups. We're recruiting new members all the time. They're signing up for kayaking classes and everything else. This is prime time to do it. We have a gem of a community. Let's piggyback on with that.
All right, we gotta keep moving, guys.
So I know, Joe's got numbers to repair for the courts at the Nike Base,
Yeah,
so I can see what those are.
I want to say they were in the 250,000 range.
I know we applied them for.
Was that for the
SGV
entire,
last
see,
year.
I don't think you need the entire thing.
I think that was to basically repave the entire, like, to
He was doing, roller hockey, pickleball,
whatever it
and
was,
tennis.
but it was like rebuilding.
You said,
It wasn't just.
we know that, we know the
20
co-use
minutes.
surfaces are great.
Right, water.
And it wouldn't just be the paving, all the poles need to be replaced too. I mean, there's a lot of work that needs to be done.
Moving on to water, we have a 2 million gallon tank, it's already been bond authorized. We have to do the clear well repair. We have a number for that now, or a rough number. So we'll bond that, those have to be done. The clear well has to be done, it's down right now, so we talked about that, I know at some meetings, so those will be on there. I believe those are the only things that are on water right now.
So those two both might be partially covered by the CARES Act, then, it sounds like.
Well, it's water, if we can use it for projects that are already in the queue, move through.
Well,
partially.
like,
Well, the clear well will basically be
the
under
tank is done,
Yeah,
so.
in this time.
The tank is already done back in line. I don't know if we can retroactively
Probably
use
not.
it.
We do have the baseline road project. We're applying for a grant for that. We're gonna plan on bidding it in February because of the pricing on pipe and stuff right now. Depending on what that comes in at, that's also an option for using some of that CARES money.
Yeah, so regardless, Mike, we're gonna be able to spend it.
Yeah.
And when you look at the amount for the WIA grant,
Now, you can't use CARES Act money for something that you've already borrowed for, just remember. So if we already had a ban for something, you cannot use CARES Act, the ARP money for that stuff.
Okay, so we borrowed money for the baseline project, but it's probably not gonna be enough. Where does that leave us then?
Well, like you probably got enough sewer money or other water projects. And also remember that $2 million miscellaneous water, we only borrowed $1.5 million because the attorneys, wanted a timeline of how the money was going to be spent. So,
So and that's that money that we're talking about, that's gonna get pushed off till February because of the prices right now.
the rest of the 2 million, you're saying?
The rest of the whole baseline project,
Oh,
borrowed the money for.
well, we'll have to, I've got a couple of seminars coming up regarding that as we clarify. I mean, we can have a bond resolution and not borrow the money. And,
Right.
and my suggestion would be too, we'll talk to the attorneys and hopefully in that language of the bond resolution, indicate that maybe ARP money would be used so that we can maybe play both sides.
Okay,
Because I don't physically borrow the money till it closes in October, but September is final numbers.
right.
So certainly by then, we should have a good idea of what's applicable.
Okay. So we'll leave water as it is now.
Yeah.
Wastewater, we've already authorized the groups, we bonded that. We have a thickener project we need to do.
we don't have a number on that yet. So.
No, there's no number yet.
What is a thickener? Oh,
The sludge, the waste
don't want
sludge
to
that goes, before it goes into the digester, it gets into an initial settling process. We take the supernatant off, run it back to the head of the plant, and the thickened sludge goes into the digester.
It has literally reached the end of its useful life.
That was part of the original plant.
Okay.
Before the plant was upgraded in 78. So that's how old that piece of equipment is.
We're gonna have order of magnitude numbers probably by the time we're done with this meeting. They were actually out yesterday looking at the equipment.
Year 10 is on here, for 2.1 million. I don't know if we have 2.1 million of work for year 10. The same thing for year 11, the 2.4. I'm not sure we're gonna have that either. We're kind of just holding places from what we had proposed before. But I think after the work this year, we might need to go back and see where we're going next. We need to redirect. So that year 10 work for 2021 is probably not gonna be 2021, it's gonna be pushed out. And they also have their half of the Dacre truck on here.
Now, under 2021, one of the things that's not here, and, Dick's gonna look at me, is Bedell Road. Now that we've fixed the 30-inch, we.
Borrowed money from Bell Road in 2019.
Okay, thank you.
We're all set.
Get that
Moving on.
Moving on, thank you.
Didn't even-
He tried to throw himself under the bus.
Yeah. Cell phone.
Light ring, she did it great.
And the lighting's on there.
Actually, back at wastewater, clarifiers, I'm getting budgetary numbers right now. We're not at the point of failure, but the launders and troughs are shot on the clarifiers. So a rehab of those, whether we would package a project with doing the thickener at the same time, or if the scope's different enough, we do a separate contract if we want to push money out. We're not at imminent, they need to be done, and I'm getting budgetary numbers literally once again as we speak. I'm gonna have some ideas of where that's gonna be. So we can defer that forward. That isn't this year, next year, but it's gotta get on the
For the
horizon.
board's information, that's the area where the water overflows and then gets chlorinated to the chlorine contact tank and discharged.
Yeah, the treated water leaves our treatment system by a overflow piece into a collection system. Those are in bad shape.
Find out, we'll show you what it's like. You'll love it.
We've done before.
I had another comment about the park stuff, talking about placing diamonds and quartz and moving whatever around there. We keep going back to, we don't really have an updated master plan for the park. I don't know how much that costs to get done, but I think we should look at doing that too, before we start trying to find.
I really think that's been my rattling call. We don't know what we're building.
wanna
We don't
talk-
know where it belongs.
Right, I mean, that's all,
Last
but
one from 97, I think.
I mean, it needs to be redone, it's absolute, but I really also feel that we're gonna need to hire somebody.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
We need
Yeah,
a plan.
definitely.
We need to get some money in this
Yeah.
queue,
Yeah.
otherwise we're just gonna spin our wheels and everybody's gonna
Right.
sell on it.
Pete, I think if we can get that plan, if we can get the board together and get them on that, we can probably maybe wind the discussions about what a community center could look like. And, you're bringing somebody in, cover it all at once, and we're getting ideas long-term.
Sure, that stuff's in the wheelhouse of that person, absolutely.
As an aspect of.
We definitely have to commit to spending some funds to
Oh, yeah.
go for the plan.
So the only other thing is,
So that would be retaining.
Judy's working on the
Yeah.
stuff for, she's trying to get the ball rolling on doing some stuff for
Town
Tom
Commons.
Commons, but I don't think any of that'll be probably on the radar for next year by the time we're spending any real money, but.
I think the problem is it's so hodgepodge, we just need a plan, so it's.
Yeah.
For that too, and she got some grant funding, but she's still poking around trying to find a way to make it work. And I think that'll probably be a joint effort, because I know Cav's interested in working with them on that.
So just as a conversation, do we go all inclusive on our Parks Master Plan? Or are we looking at facility first or by facility? I mean, if you were to classify where we start.
I mean, it sounds
The whole
like,
works.
it sounds like after these discussions today, when we're talking about what we want to do with tennis courts, the Nike base, and what, that perhaps
So it's a
a
Nike.
park master plan, but yeah, I mean.
Where do we start? What's brick one?
If you're paying for the
probably
plan,
tennis would be the,
it's smarter to pay for both places at once.
Yeah.
and probably cheaper.
It's a Parks and Rec master
Yeah.
plan.
Right.
Yeah.
so I think-
Don't,
So
don't
you're-
just do
you're-
one place.
No, I
You're
agree.
knocking out both locations.
I agree where we start.
Well, you gotta get both of them, right? Because the thing is, in order to do one, you need to assess what you have at all of them, to decide if it's worthwhile or not, or how you put it together, so.
Since we're adding on 11th hour things, just like Bob said, he'll be getting numbers. The board will be hearing from the retained safety and security consultant tomorrow. And depending on their appetite for whatever ends up being presented to us from the evaluation, that may play into some of our use of, bonding you know, if we, whatever scope we want to take on in terms of proving safety and security could impact what we want to do, but that meeting's not till tomorrow. So based on what the board thinks, we'll be in close communication with you, Pam and Lynn, to see if this, if this is a, hey, we're good, we're not doing anything. I don't think that'll be what it is, but a multi-year plan. Yeah, so I don't want to assume, but a multi-year thing. So as soon as we know more, I'll let Pam and Lynn know, as Bob will, because he'll be in with us. So we'll see what comes out of that and how that could have budgetary implications.
Sorry.
So,
Now everyone knows.
It's all right.
so that's all I'm gonna have to follow up with you on. But Bob will be there, so he'll get a sense too.
So that's general fund, correct? With
Yes.
all the buildings, yeah.
Well, water and wastewater have their own, they don't, general fund doesn't pay for this stuff, so
True.
they have to be split.
Appropriately.
John stepped out of the room, but I'm just gonna plant the seed to you people after sitting with Dick and,
Why do you keep putting everything on Dick?
well, it's first.
It's easy.
Well, no,
He's at the table, Tom's at the back row.
You notice I've been very quiet.
the discussion of storage is perking back up amongst all the groups. And whether we look at, and I don't know if it can be done because of different funds, you know, each one has their needs or requests or desires. And we're talking about a series of storage, cold storage buildings type things. Or do we put up one and have something, it's something we've got to kick around. We really got to start to bring to the surface. Some of it may be evaluations of existing uses, but
I think that's a big one because I think if we really looked, if we were to combine certain things like mowing and other things like that, suddenly your storage needs are going to shrink down. And I think we really do at some point need to really say, what's our most productive and efficient way in which to deploy both equipment and.
I just
staff.
but even.
I said the same thing,
Like
Ken, we gotta
some of the
pick that
things
back up.
Yeah.
Right.
Because I
So,
know.
you know, like I said, I just want to put
Suddenly our
that back in
storage
front of the
problem
board.
disappears,
I
'cause
know
we
we
don't
don't
have
take and
10
skip and some other people.
lawnmowers.
Well, to a certain extent, that's true, because I know, but
It depends, because you're
We-
still gonna
we
need
were
all your
getting-
stuff on site
yeah,
in the summer.
You know, scenario, so over at sewer, because we're putting the belt press back online. You know, we're doing a project right now, replacing the belt press that hasn't run in 30 years, over a number out there. We're doing that. Well, where the old dumpster that collected the byproduct off of the belt press, since we haven't been doing that, has been utilized for a generator stored in there, some pumps are stored in there, so they've been using that space. Now that we're reactivating that for part of the wastewater process, they just
You need a
lost
dumpster.
a garage. You know, so, you know, where can that be relocated to? You know, we're trying to evaluate our current spaces, but I wanted to put it in front of the board because, you know, Dick spoke about it. Mr. Cicery spoke about it, you know, everybody that was in the room when we were looking at our capitals from our maintenance facilities and groups, everybody said the same thing. I want a barn, I want storage space. So,
We should make that this year priority is to resolve how best to deal with that type of, you know, maintenance activities that are
Sure.
occurring.
for example, for us, I know it's been talked about that we may take over cutting all of town hall for Jimmy. Substations I've heard about. All our mowers are used now, so we took all that over. Now we have to get more stuff. We're not freeing up space. We're gonna need more mowers and more space.
well, the stuff that they're using, you're gonna start
Right.
using.
Right.
Where does it still go?
Right.
We haven't solved the space.
And we've lost space at Monkey Base. Joe, and rightfully so, Joe started a kayak program and he needs space for that. So,
Roofs are caving in.
yeah, everything's shrinking.
Let's not even talk about existing building condition as much as just physical space.
So
So that's-
we're back to parking stuff outside and we're storing equipment outside. That's a problem we had
It's more trailers.
10 years ago. Yeah.
Meantime, we're sandbagging.
Right back
when
in.
it rains.
Yep.
You know, so it's kind of a balancing act.
And
I
that's,
wanted to just, you know, we need to think about that, guys.
yeah,
Your, supervisors.
that's why I didn't, Tommy had, I've talked to you about that building and he has that on here. And I didn't bring that up because I know that was discussed. That money we best served to be pushed. if we did something in the future.
Yeah. What was given to you is not even close enough to do it. That's why we ended up with
Right.
two picnic shelters that still cost more than that.
It's lost 'cause you
Yeah,
don't-
that's why I didn't bring it up.
Right.
Like,
Well,
it's
we
not on the
send out
recent
our-
ones, I don't want her to miss that.
So, and that's what we did submittals and then let's go from there.
So we need to work on our, okay, yeah. You want to get, we'll plan a meeting of that Parks and Rec Master Plan Committee? Yeah. I'll join you and we can.
That's what we'll do.
Are we
How
done,
about,
John?
how about just on that one topic as far as, you know, maybe it's a Department of Public Works or whatever we were calling it for mowing and other plowing and everything else. How do we go about tackling that one? Who leads that effort?
I kind of got initial discussions with Tom and Dick and Skip, but we probably need to continue those conversations and get legal involved because there's union issues, there's other issues, but I think. it
Union
definitely-
issues and then fund issues too. I mean, we can only spend highway funds on highway related stuff. We can't plow Veterans Park
Right, but
with highway
that's,
funds.
right.
It's a,
No, but the,
They would still be,
There are ways to do it.
Not true, guys. Highway and general fund are the same tax base. So it's less murky.
Got it.
it is, plus the town board does have the authority
we
to.
can put anything we want in Dick's court.
but I respect that it's
Water
a,
and sewer.
it's a big
Well, but what
change.
gets weird, I mean, like you said, just said though, you know, those guys taking over mowing, well, that's wastewater. You know, that's, you know, now we're dipping into those type of things, yeah.
I respect that it's a very big decision with a lot of smaller changes too, so I like the idea of getting on it earlier than later for everyone to have a say in it.
Well, it's been out there in the gray area for a while, so yeah,
That's-
we got.
Yeah, that's true.
Okay,
We almost done with this one, you think, John?
as far as I know. Anything else you need?
Maybe not something.
Do you do solar?
I think
That would be 10:30. I'm gonna
theoretically.
close this one off.
10:45 probably. Well,
Then
10:30
that's at the
we'll set the
workshop.
internal.
There one?
Everything's all one workshop.
Okay, well, I can still close out this
Just,
recording.
executive session, which,
and then
Well,
open
but
it.
he said he
Would be
said
our-
solar.
well, solar law is,
Not
is
in-
the
So
10
I
that was a
will
10:30 schedule.
I would end it and just rename it. It'll be the same
Solar
code to
is
sign it and
actually
everything.
We're not calling
probably
it
the
adjourned.
executive.
It's probably gonna be.
Yeah, 'cause we're
It's gonna be
talking-
exclusively executive.
This is really legal. It's really the legal review that we're talking
Why don't
about.
you just,
So this will not be a
why don't you just leave this open? We'll go into executive
Right,
session
right.
and then shut the recording off.
great.
Yeah. That's how we do it.
Okay. All right, so I'll entertain a motion to go into executive session for legal advice on the solar law.
So moved.
Motion by Tom McGatty, second by Mike Madigan. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.